Welcome to the Irishman, Englishman and Scotsman Football Podcast. This is the Irishman, Englishman and Scotsman Football Podcast. Joining me tonight, Kev and Joe. How are you doing, lads?
Good, thank you.
Kicking off right into the heart of it, Kev. Saturday, 1:30 at Anfield, Liverpool against Newcastle. Liverpool drew at Leeds 1-1 on Monday night. A win will take them back into the top four. It's been a while since they've been there. The Super League talk might be a bit of a distraction. We'll get your opinion on Liverpool in a sec, Kev. Newcastle beat West Ham 3-2 last time out in one of the craziest games I've seen. Now, Fino said that West Ham, if they stopped Maxima, they would win the game. They didn't stop him. He absolutely ripped them to shreds. You know, I got to say that the goals were comical, and from West Ham's point of view, red card was definitely a red card. But defensively, they're all over the place. And Newcastle dominated the first half. And if Gareth Southgate was at the game looking for Jesse Lingard, he would have found them in Federico Fernandez's pocket, you know, because he did absolutely nothing. And I was actually, you know, kind of concerned about the game. But going in at half-time, I thought, this could be 5 or 6-0. This is the worst team we played since we played West Ham at the start of the season. And, you know, this is Newcastle. They look so confident. And after the win against Burnley, they played with a bit of freedom. So you go against 10 men in the second half, surely bring on Callum Wilson, play 3 up front and bury them. But he didn't make any changes. And he sat back and thought he was going to run West Ham out, you know, and soak up the pressure with their 10 men, and they get tired to hit them on the break. But West Ham just attacked. And they got back to 2-2. But when they got back to 2-2, and there were controversial decisions also, the penalty and the probably an offside goal for the first one, VAR, you know, the usual stuff. But as soon as they went 2-2, then Steve Bruce seemed to say, okay, now go and attack again. And straight away, Matt Ritchie, who's been unbelievable since he came back, he's been a revelation, bangs in a ball. Joe Willock is on the pitch for 2 minutes, and he bangs in a header, and they win 3-2. Newcastle have a bit of breathing space now. They're not safe yet, but a bit of breathing space. And you could see it in the first half in the players that they were kind of enjoying themselves. You know, a little bit of pressure had been lifted after the Burnley win. And I think going into this game, because, you know, West Brom lost and Fulham only drew with Arsenal last time out, there's a little bit of pressure off Newcastle and there's a lot of pressure on Liverpool. You know, you've got this distraction from the Super League. Of course, you know, they've got to get into the top four, Kev.
Yeah, there's a huge amount of pressure on this now. It was really weird, the Liverpool game against the Leeds, where Liverpool, you know, looked pretty good in places, especially in the first half. But Leeds were really good in the second and were well worth that point, I tell you. So nothing, again, I say again, nothing's really changed for Liverpool. They're still not very good. They're still like really missing. I know you're not a massive fan, JP, but Jordan Henderson, you know, he's still like one of those players. You know, you miss your captain, and Liverpool's results are just not as good without their captain, and obviously without Van Dijk as well. But let's not go into that again. So I think, yeah, massive amount of pressure on. Liverpool do tend to do very well at home to Newcastle, right? I'm sure you remember over the years. You know, it tends to be, you know, one of the closest things there is to a home banker. You know, and all I'd say about Liverpool this year is they've done reasonably well in the games against the teams that they usually do reasonably well in. They needed a boost when they were playing Arsenal a couple of weeks ago, and they got that boost because they nearly always do well against Arsenal. They nearly always do well against Newcastle. And so, you know, if I have to bet, I think they probably do just enough. But yeah, it's been obviously massive pressure now that they absolutely know that they have to get into that top four. I still don't think they will, by the way. I really don't think they will. I think it's too much already. I think unless they're really relying on a couple of teams to implode. And so any one more slip up, and I think that's probably the end of it, to be honest. If they were to lose this one and, you know, Chelsea, Tottenham, a couple of others West Ham maybe were to win theirs, I think that might realistically be their last chance. So can they cope with the pressure? Because this season, honestly, when the pressure's been on, they haven't looked like they can.
I agree with you there, Kev. I think it might be a little bit too late. You know, I think another Leicester win. I think it's Monday night they're playing, you know, and that really would see them kind of push for third place. And Chelsea, I fancy Chelsea to take the last spot. Again, you know, what Fino was saying last week, obviously the Liverpool defence is a lot better than West Ham, but, you know, they've got to keep the ball away from, say, Maxima, because he'll look at that makeshift Liverpool defence and rub his hands with glee. as will Callum Wilson. Defensively, I don't think Newcastle have enough to keep Liverpool out for 90 minutes or 95 or whatever it is these days. But, I fancy us to get something, maybe a draw. They're kind of becoming a little bit stubborn now, Newcastle. And, I think they'll play with a little bit of freedom. I think we'll trouble Liverpool, but I don't think we'll beat you. So I would definitely take a draw. Moving on, 6:30 on Saturday evening, massive game, West Ham against Chelsea. West Ham, of course, beaten by Newcastle. And I have to say they were absolutely terrible in defence. But they have been terrible in defence for the last 4 or 5 or 6 games. They're shipping loads of goals. And Newcastle could have scored 5 or 6 in the first half. Like I said, Lingard was a no-show in the first half. And I think that game against Newcastle last week, I think West Ham's Champions League hopes are gone. I think they'll be beaten here by Chelsea, who will leapfrog Liverpool into the top 4, regardless of the previous result, although they couldn't break down Brighton. But I think West Ham can see too many goals to, and they're missing Rice and Antonio. I just think they ship too many goals to make that top 4. Joe?
Yeah, I think you're right, JP. And obviously Dawson, who's been amazing for them this season, he got sent off, didn't he? So they're missing Dawson, Rice and Antonio, which is a big part of the spine of their team. So many clubs have been through a really dodgy spell this season, and West Ham seems to have always been quite consistent. I just wonder if now their form is going to drop off just a little bit at the wrong time. I did hear an interesting stat today, though, that West Ham have scored more Premier League goals this season than Chelsea. And when you consider Chelsea have spent money on the likes of Werner, Havertz, I think they spent over 150 million in the summer. It's not a fantastic return, is it, when West Ham have scored more goals than you? So I wouldn't rule them out just yet, but I do tend to agree. I think Leicester and Chelsea will take those final 2 spots in the top 4.
Just quickly, Kev, do you think that the Super League will be a distraction for Liverpool and Chelsea players this weekend?
I think it will inevitably be, yeah. I think it will have caused some lasting damage. And we probably don't want to get into the Super League again. Everyone sort of had their take on it. I don't see what's happened though as like some massive victory that's going to change football or anything like that. I think we're back where we were, a couple of weeks ago, which was, the status quo, massive amounts of too much money in the game. No real obvious way to solve the problems. But I think what has happened at those clubs, and particularly at Liverpool, is you'll see it would have damaged the relationship between the players and the club, right? You could see how certain players, anyway, were really upset by it. You know what I mean? And I think, you had John Henry at Liverpool come out and give that, belated apology and so on, which won't have helped at all in any way. So I think all you've got now is, I suppose you could look at it 2 ways. You could say the fact that the players got together at Liverpool anyway, I don't know so much about Chelsea, but got together to make that, statement altogether might be one of those moments where it helps them sort of strengthen those bonds, between themselves. Maybe there'll almost be an us v them mentality between the players and the coach against the owners, which you do sometimes see, but that's not healthy long term. So yeah, I think it will be a distraction. I think it's been awful, on every level as a fan. It must have been pretty shitty as a player. The coach was obviously upset. What did seem to be a harmonious club in terms of the relationship between, the playing staff, the coaching staff and the owners, has now been shown to be an absolute joke. So yeah, I think inevitably it's been rubbish, and it will probably continue to be rubbish, and will cap a rubbish season.
Right, moving on, 9:00 on Saturday night, Sheffield United against Brighton. Of course, Sheffield United relegated last week with that defeat to Wolves. Brighton, you'd think they're safe, and that sturdy defensive performance against Chelsea, Joe, I think that really kind of solidified their place in the Premier League for next season.
I think they'll want one more win, and no better team to get that against, really, is there, than Sheffield United, who've lost their last 5 or whatever. Fully expect Brighton to win this one comfortably, and I think 3 more points for them, and they'll be in the league next year. And they're actually going to be one of my teams to watch next year. If they can get a striker, wouldn't surprise me if they finish in the top 10 next year. I think they are that good.
Yeah, they're really good to watch, and they play football. They really keep the ball on the ground. They're very easy on the eye, and yeah, I'm glad Brighton are staying up. But saying that, nothing is sure yet. Newcastle could still go down yet, but I'm definitely a lot more optimistic than I was a month ago. Newcastle actually, they've won the last two. They'll be lost one of the last six. So plus Liverpool are at Anfield, Kev. When was the last time Liverpool won at Anfield?
No, we've got one. We've got one recent win at Anfield. So no,
okay.
it's not quite as bad as it was, but yeah.
All right. Sunday, Wolves against Burnley. Wolves, of course, beat Sheffield United the last time out. They're kind of in limbo at the end of the season. Burnley took the lead at Old Trafford and looked really good. Tarkowski bullied Harry Maguire and banged in a header, but they fell apart in the end and they lost 3-1 to Man United. Now, Burnley are 6 points clear of Fulham with the game in hand. So surely, Joe, you think, Burnley are safe as well?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, it's funny, isn't it? Obviously, at times people have really been worried for Brighton, and then it was Newcastle, and now
for a long time Newcastle, yeah.
and now it seems Burnley is the club who can't find any form whatsoever. If you've lost in your last few games, if you've lost to Newcastle and to Southampton, that shows you what bad form you must be in. I've been reading today as well that Nuno Espirito Santo may potentially leave Wolves at the end of the summer. So you wonder if their season is going to die out somewhat, although they have won their last two. I think Wolves are going to win this one, though. Burnley, I just can't see where their goals are going to come from. So I think they'll lose, but I think they should be safe.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they will just about be safe. I think what happened in midweek with West Brom losing quite heavily in that game against Leicester, that just snuffed out that little flicker. Yeah, I'm not saying they're absolutely relegated now or anything like that, but with those two wins and two really good wins and scoring a bunch of goals, people, the other teams must have just thought, oh, Jesus Christ, they're not going to pull off one of those miracle escapes, are they? They're not going to put a win, run of sort of 6 or 7 together. And I think the fact that they were beaten handily, I just think means that, people will relax a little bit now. And I think that's the second of those relegation places now. Yeah, very, very, very close to being confirmed. So a little way to go yet. But I think if you look at Burnley, I think they're 9 points ahead of West Brom. They're 6 points ahead of Fulham, who have played the game more. And again, I think we're getting to that point where a point of the game or whatever. I think Burnley are going to be just about all right.
Just going back to something you touched on there, Joe, Nuno Espirito Santo. I mean, Wolves hadn't won a game in a while, and I watched the last two games against Fulham when they got that last-minute goal through Traore, and the celebration on the sideline between him and his coaching staff was like they'd won the cup final. And again, it was the same when they beat Sheffield United. So I don't know if he'll be leaving just yet. I mean, there's big faith in him and what he's building. So it hasn't been the best season for them. They've lost their best player in shot at the Liverpool, and they've lost their main centre forward. So, yeah, I wouldn't rule him leaving just yet. Now, lads, this for me is the game of the weekend. 3:00 on Sunday. Leeds United at Ellen Road against the biggest rivals, Man United. Leeds in the last two games have beat Man City away. Drew at Liverpool on Monday night. Could have beat them, Kev. I'm sure you'll agree. In the end, plenty of chances. They play with no fear. They're unbeaten in 5. Man United have won the last 5 in a row. Beat Burnley 3-1 from being a goal down. A win here for Man United should guarantee second place, automatic qualification for the Champions League, and then they can concentrate on the Europa League.
Yeah, this is absolutely one to savour, isn't it? Sorry, JP, but I think this is just it's an illustration again, isn't it? How this will be a better match. This is one to look forward to more than some dreary, even a Man United against. I could not get excited about a Man United against Atletico Madrid, but I can get excited about this because also you touched on it there, but there isn't that much at stake. Like, we know that there's not much at stake for Leeds, and for Man United, I think they've already got second. I think, or at least I'm going to say they're in the top 4, so they're going to be in the Champions League next year. But good illustration. A game I'm much more excited about than some nondescript Euro game.
Joe,
so Man U are unbeaten in 23 away matches in the Premier League, which is extraordinary. It just shows you how consistent and how good they've been. So you just can't see them losing this one. But I think it'll be a fantastic game. I think Leeds will give an amazing account of themselves. Like we said, they haven't lost to Liverpool and City in the last few games. So it wouldn't surprise me if this one is a very entertaining draw.
Yeah, I think the reverse fixture was a bit crazy as well. It might have been something like 6-3 or 5-3 to Man U at Old Trafford. It was all out attack. And hopefully this one is the same. Speaking of meaningless games, Kev, this might be one. Villa against West Brom. Villa, of course, lost to Man City in midweek. West Brom beaten by Leicester. West Brom have to win this to have any kind of glimmer of hope. It's a Midlands derby, but, I'd probably see Villa winning it. But, I don't think I'm even going to watch this one, lads.
I think, yeah, this is one. If you've got a vested interest in this one, it might be pretty good. Like they're saying, West Brom were playing really well. I confess I didn't watch the Leicester game, so I don't know if it was a case of they were really battered or if they were just a little bit unlucky. But one for the locals, I reckon. This one.
Monday night, 9:00, the final game of the weekend. Leicester at home to Crystal Palace. Leicester, of course, won against West Brom. A win here for Leicester really goes a long, long way to, Champions League football next season, I think. They had a bit of a blip. They got that win against West Brom. Palace are safe. They were hammered by Chelsea. Palace haven't played since, I think, the 10th of April. So it's a long time ago. They're safe. So I really fancy Leicester to win this one as well. Vardy's back among the goal scorers. And I think a win here, and maybe one more after that, and Leicester are looking at top four.
Yeah, we were saying when we last week, after Leicester reached the cup final, would they kind of drop off a little bit in the league and prioritise trying to win a trophy over finishing in the top four? And I was one. I actually thought that West Brom may have got something out of that game. West Brom were playing so well, but Leicester were dominant. They were so good. And Vardy he just seems to get better. He just seems to get better. He's fairly old now, isn't he? What, 35 or whatever? Still scoring. Iheanacho's been a revelation this season, isn't he? He's scored a lot more goals than anyone could have predicted. I actually thought that Leicester would have fallen away and wouldn't finish in the top four. I just thought we may have seen a repeat of what happened last season. But fair play to Brendan Rodgers. It certainly hasn't happened yet anyway, and I think they'll win this one as well. And yeah, they're getting really close now. A couple more wins and they should be secured in that top four, which would be an amazing achievement.
I think as well it'll be, again, this weekend for me, some of these matches are really good reminders, given what happened with all the Super League shenanigans. This is just, I think a lot of people have been thinking back with great affection about that Leicester League title win and just reminding themselves about, what a breath of fresh air it is when things like that. When was it? Was it 5 years ago, more or less? It was 5 years now. Time flies, dear me. But anyway, it's been really nice to think of that. And I look at that. We've all been fans of the way Leicester have played football. They've got a really good coach who lots of clubs would love to have a coach as talented as him. It was a blip. It was worrying after they came back after that break and had those 2 results or whatever it was. And now I just think, wouldn't it be nice now? Wouldn't it be nice now if they could win the cup, cement 3rd place, have really something to look forward to, and like I say, just reminds people of how it isn't just the so-called, big six or whatever who make this league tick.
Would you worry for Leicester though, lads, if they do make the Champions League, and regardless of whether they win the cup or not? I hope they do, but they've really unearthed some gems in Maddison, and for me, Tielemans is one of the players of the season. You'd wonder, would bigger clubs come in for them, at the end of the season?
I think so, yeah. Obviously, you've got Fofana as well at the back, who's been amazing this season. We've seen in the past some of their best players like Mahrez and Kante have left. But if they're playing in the Champions League football and the likes of, Spurs or Liverpool or whoever misses out, would you leave or would you stay? If you're guaranteed Champions League football, would you stay? It's a tricky one, isn't it? And, one thing this summer, is there going to be as much money lying around and spent as there has been in the past due to COVID? Probably not. So they may just hang on to some of them.
I think it's not just the players though, is it? And I think there might not be money for players, but there's always money to pay, coach compensation. And for me, that's a really interesting question at the moment, because I've been thinking about this a lot over the last week for all sorts of reasons. But, like German coaches are very, fashionable at the moment, right? There's lots of, everyone's looking towards Germany, it somehow seems at the moment, for coaching inspiration. You got Brendan Rodgers, who is not, does not have that international experience, unless you count Scotland, I suppose. But he has done a really nice job. I expect he will be in demand. I don't know if he'll be in demand by the absolute top tier. That's the thing. I'm not sure. Let's see. I don't even particularly want to speculate who's going to be in the market for a permanent coach. Do you think Tottenham? Sorry, I'm going to say Tottenham just because they've got an interim coach. So I don't like speculating about coaches being fired, but they've only got an interim coach. Tottenham maybe, or will Tottenham look towards someone like Nagelsmann or something like that? I don't know, but I wonder who would tempt Rodgers away. He had his experience at Liverpool, which was pretty good, and he got close to the title, but obviously didn't end very well. But surely he will want, at some point, not just a taste of the Champions League, but surely at some point he will want to go to one of those top clubs. And I wonder if this might be the year, or maybe it'll fall. Maybe it'll be okay for Leicester, and that demand for him won't quite come this time.
I think if Leicester have a good season next season again, then he'll be in huge demand, and someone like Tottenham might actually suit him, I remember at Swansea, they played fantastic football.
Oh, yeah.
And Liverpool, played great football as well under Rodgers. That was the closest they got to the title, to the Premier League title ever. I mean, that season. At Celtic,
it was amazing.
Yeah, at Celtic, he wiped the floor with everything. He won the treble, I don't know how many times in a row. Well, that's not very difficult, but, still, they were very good to watch. And at Leicester, he's worked wonders. So I think he's a top-class coach. And, yeah, I think, another good season at Leicester, and he could be off to somewhere bigger. I actually imagine them at somewhere like Arsenal, where they play really good football. But apparently he's a very good manager as well, and he brings the whole unit together. So whether that would work out with Arsenal or not, who knows? Okay, lads, we've tried to avoid it so far, but the elephant in the room is the collapse of the European Super League since we spoke last time out on Tuesday. Chelsea were the first two, along with Man City, to drop out. Florentino still thinks that it's possible in the future. Kev?
Well, I said one thing last week about Florentino, which is, we don't know anything about this, but I speculated. I said there may be that he has like a sort of doomsday contract or a doomsday clause in that contract, right? So that no one's allowed to pull out. And it was really interesting what happened with everyone sort of pulling out at the same time. Because I've subsequently heard, just on the radio, right, in Spain, no inside knowledge or anything like that, but that there is indeed a clause in the contract, that there is a big penalty clause in the contract for the clubs that pull out. And I assume that them all pulling out at the same time is this feeling that they, the safety in numbers, that it'll never get to the point where they have to pay. But I haven't seen the news today, but up until yesterday, Real Madrid and Barcelona were still in the Super League. Like, they haven't pulled out. And according to Florentino, and admittedly this was now 2 or 3 nights ago, he was saying no one officially has pulled out either. Or, so I think he's accepted that it's not going to happen in anything like its current form. I mean, you'd have to be crazy to think that it's just going to come back. But I am sure that they are still harboring thoughts of owning their own league. The numbers are just colossal. Whatever money they could get from UEFA in terms of prize money. Number one, as we all know, what they would love is to have guaranteed income, which the Champions League could never get them. But I'm sure this is not going to go away while those owners are in place, while the Americans own all the Premier League clubs, while Spain and Italy, those clubs still have their financial problems. The numbers are just colossal. The potential numbers in those billions of pounds, billions of euros. I don't think Florentino has given up.
I know, Joe, you spoke to Jakob Larsson, the ex-Denmark and Derby defender. That's coming up on Sunday night, folks, by the way, on our YouTube channel. Joe had a great chat with Jakob Larsson about his career and, the players he's played against and the fantastic career he had. But did you ask him, Joe, what his opinion was on the Super League?
Yeah, I did. So he said, I think similar to the rest of us, that this isn't going away anytime soon. We should all be very wary that something may happen again in the future. I think he just agreed that it's all about money, isn't it? And it's no surprise that Real Madrid and Barcelona are the two clubs left in, because they're the two clubs who are the brokest out of everyone. They're in so much debt and they need the money. Obviously delighted it's not happening, although it was quite an exciting 2 days, wasn't it, when it was all kicking off. It was all anyone could talk about. For me, I'm just really disappointed that was the best idea that they could come up with. Surely some of the greatest minds in the biggest clubs could have come up with something a bit more innovative, a bit more exciting. Because I think people agree that the Champions League isn't perfect, and there maybe is room for something a little bit different, but that certainly wasn't it.
Yeah, I spoke to Ramon Vega today. That'll be out soon as well, the ex-Tottenham and Celtic Switzerland player. And I asked him his opinion, and he said the same thing. He said, look, this won't go away. It might take 10 years, but it's coming back. It's definitely coming back. And they've been behind the scenes for a long time preparing this thing, so they're not going to stop. Right, folks, we are almost at the end. Before we go, as always, we couldn't leave without another gem from our lyrical scouser, Kev.
Here we go. Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. It's called What Happens on the Pitch Doesn't Matter If You're Rich. Although it turns out it still does. That's bad news for some, because all but 2 of the big 6 are shitting Champions League-sized bricks. Chelsea should inspire awe, but Brighton held them to a draw that left them huddled in the warmth of that extremely dicey fourth. Spurs have a new coach, a more positive approach, and the fans have no complaints after they just edged past Saints. But still, they're down in 6th, nestled awkwardly betwixt West Ham United just above them, and then Liverpool, God love them, who launched another major climb down as the owners called a code brown on a Super League disaster that could not have folded faster. And yeah, we're all relieved to see a plan so ill-conceived fall so flatly on its face and disappear without a trace. But you think this is a victory? Sorry to be contradictory, but in a game where cash is king, this really will not change a thing. Nor will these poor verses unless we all vote with our purses. But let's face it, we'll be back. After all, football's like crack. And while my heart still bleeds, this week I couldn't cheer on Leeds, who were worth their 1-1 draw against the Reds, who I am sure will be cursing Florentino and his Super League casino. But while this week's been painful and the club's behaviour shameful, you can't just switch from love to hate. This isn't fandom, this is fate.
Brilliant stuff, Kev. Thanks very much, lads.
Cheers, JP. Cheers, Joe.
This has been the Irishman, Englishman, and Scotsman Football Podcast. If you haven't subscribed already to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button on the bottom right-hand side. And don't forget to check out on Sunday evening, also on our YouTube channel, Joe had a brilliant chat with ex-Derby County and Denmark player Jakob Larsson. Thanks a lot, folks. We'll see you next Tuesday. Enjoy the games. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to hear more of our podcasts, please click on the red subscribe button on the bottom right-hand side. Thank you.